Thank you for joining me for another Quick Hits conversation. I'm Dr. Robyn. With me today, I have Atif Agha, Chuck Groot, and Pascal Derrien. And I would like to ask you, how do you catch yourself overthinking and then stop doing it? Atif, can you go first?
Yeah, so thank you for having us. What I really go with is, one, I think we all do overthinking here and there, right? But I think comes down to what are we really overthinking about? So I think changing that gauge of what's important to us. Sometimes we don't have that right. So we may be overthinking about stuff that's not that important, trivial stuff. Somebody said something and we're overthinking even we can't do anything about it. So adjusting that gauge of what's really important to us, and then start thinking about that. And I think the other thing we can always change or adjust is, instead of just thinking over and over again about what happened, if we focus on what we can do to make it different in the future, or what can we do different, what could we have done differently, and what can we do now to address it, whatever we think about. Having an action plan is, I think, a key to stop thinking about it more or overthinking about it and start doing something about it.
You're not well known for overthinking things. However, when I'm starting to dwell a bit on it, I think overthinking is often, associated with anxiety. And that, a lot, because I'm coming from a patient-centric ecosystem. So 99% of us seems to overthink, but it's not necessarily around business and all these type of things, which is, top of line. But, when you're a patient, for example, you tend to overthink, what's going to be my symptom? What's going to be the outcome? Is it really, really going to be very hard? Is it going to be just a light way out of it? It's really, really different. So how do you stop that? I don't know. I think you have to go through the experience. So that's one way of thinking about overthinking. In a more light way, I think I would not really advise people to overthink. Go with the flow, land of opportunities and all these type of things. I think it's pretty important. You may want to plan, but you cannot control stuff all the time. It's a mix. I think it really depends. The overthinking bit really depends on the ecosystem you're evolving in.
I find that overthinking usually happens when people are nervous about making a mistake. They're nervous about doing the wrong thing or saying the wrong thing, or in many cases just making a fool of themselves. And we are so afraid of looking stupid. And so it's the old paralysis by analysis. So if I really, really think about everything, I don't really have to do it. And both of you mentioned that get on with it and get her done. One of the things that I counsel with my clients is that always make sure that you have a list of what you're going to be doing today. Look at that list and work on what's most important to move your business ahead, or your life ahead, or your relationship ahead, whatever it is you are focusing on at that time. And look at the most important thing, just quickly jot it down and do it.
I'll share something. I see myself as sensitive. I always, for a certain time frame in my life, I think I was really an overthinker, where I would get impacted by everything happening around me. And, Chuck, what you mentioned about not really understanding what do we control and what we don't control. I think it's very important to have that understanding. We as a society, I feel that a lot. I mean, if I look back in my childhood, there were no gadgets, no tools, no computers, no social media, and people were just outside playing, and there was no time for thinking too much. Now we live in our own worlds. We are not really surrounded by people, and we are not very used to the sort of a physical understanding and gestures and all of that. So we live in our own world, and it is so easy to get stuck on one thing and start thinking too much. We need to actually build habits around, better habits around to stay away from that, because we know it's not good for us. It's not going to yield anything. So how do you do it? I think it goes back to atomic habits. How do you build small habits of having checks and balances for your own self? Nobody's going to be able to do that for you. You have to put it yourself. What are my checks and balances? when I'm really thinking too much. It's past, it's gone, there's not much I can do. How does it impact me? That always helped me.
In psychology, we talk about a thing called rumination, which is the recircling of the same thing over and over and over. And so one practice that I like to teach my clients is do it on purpose. Take a thought, take your overthinking all the way as far as it can go. I call it catastrophication. Literally say, I'm going to take this and overthink it to the maximum. And it becomes so ridiculous that your brain finally goes, you know what, this is dumb. We're not doing this anymore. And I find that that's helpful for me because to your point, Atif, you made at the top, I tend to be one who will overthink if I feel like I had a conversation with someone where I looked stupid or I said the wrong thing. And then I'm like, well, what do they think? And then I make up all of this stuff. So for me, overthinking looks like self-flagellation.
Yeah.
I think that's a very good point. I think we need to take the worry out of the overthinking or thinking. I think we're living in a world which requires a lot of validation, especially in the last 10 years. There's more, people tend to worry about perception. How many letters do I have after my name and all these type of things? And is my car big enough and all these type of things? And all those things are absolutely not important at all. However, some people have started to, it's become the focus of their attention and it's become the engine, which is actually pretty sad in a way. So as Atif were saying, I think you need to simplify a bit, and it goes back down to values. I know we are a long way from trying to stop overthinking, but deep down, once you know yourself, you probably start not to over worry. And also you probably need to get your ascending board as well, you need to be surrounded by the right people. And the people who don't necessarily count, don't let them worry you because in the end, it's all about you. And what Atif was saying, and actually Chuck as well, is just, I think it's really the essential. Just came back to the essential, go with what you feel is right for you. And if it works, fine. If it doesn't work, fine as well. Just refine it and move on.
Those are great points. And it's really quite interesting because in the last few days, I've been talking to a lot of different people, and what keeps coming back to me is that they keep saying, well, I don't have a good education. I don't have this. I don't have that. I don't feel I'm smart. So like on a higher level, we can do these things, but on a base level, what we have to explain to the people is that you're fine where you are. You're a good person. Your heart's in the right place. Education doesn't mean anything to you right now. What is important about what you're thinking about? How important is it? Is it immoral? Is it illegal? Is it going to kill somebody? And if not,
No, I do want to say quick thing, right? It's so important to not make that as a habit. Having the infrastructure of people, that support system is so important because that's really what helps you get out of it too. One other point, Chuck, you mentioned, I really want to say that I have noticed that actually people who are more educated, who are more knowledgeable than the people around them, they are the one who's overthinking because people who some people are not maybe that educated or whatever, but they just go by the flow. It's like, fine, I've gotten through this far, I'll keep going.
Yeah. Another great tip, and I think Pascal, you brought it up first, but I think all three of you have touched on it, is that when your brain overthinks, it stays down in your emotional brain and it just spins and you end up with a lot of fight or flight emotions from it. If you actually have to say it out loud, so talk to someone else about it, when it comes out of your mouth, how often have you said something and then thought, that sounds really dumb when I say it out loud? And that's because you've taken it out of your emotional brain and given your frontal cortex, the part of your brain that gets to think, access to it by putting into language. And doing that can help you stop overthinking, because then your logical brain can say, no, we're not worried about that. That's not a thing.
That's a habit, right? We have to build, basically. That's a habit.
That's a great habit because I tend to do the opposite. No, joke apart. I think, or between you and me, when I was invited to do quick hits, I started to think, am I good enough to do this thing? A lot of, smart people talking a lot of stuff about actually stuff I don't even understand. And I say, what the hell? I'm going to do it. It's going to be fun. And if it's a disaster, Robyn will never post it anyway.
That's right. Absolutely. And that is our 10 minutes. So I'm going to cut us off there. Hopefully you don't overthink about this conversation before I post it. I hope to talk to you all again very soon.